Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Talk About Script podcast. This week titled "It's You That I Andor." With me, as always, is the human Jar Jar Binks, Charlie Carthy.
Hello.
And I am Gareth Chappell. We haven't got Ali this week because they are off doing theatre stuff, so you'll just have to put up with us two. This week, we're going to look at The Acolyte, Ahsoka and Andor, and dive into some of the kind of lesser talked about Star Wars.
It may be
series.
The names may be AAA, but
yes,
the series.
Yeah,
so.
I feel we're going to be on an upward arc throughout this discussion. So we'll start with the recently cancelled Acolyte, and we'll go from there. So, Charlie.
Speaking of upward arcs, that took a while to get anywhere.
Yeah,
The Acolyte,
didn't it? Just oh my word.
Yeah, it was a show that I really, really wanted to enjoy. Really wanted to. Hoping it would be. I don't know. I don't know exactly what I was hoping for, other than
not that.
Other than lots of martial arts and lots of stunt work, maybe some wire fu, and something, I don't know, just something new, something that hadn't been done in a Star Wars before. And lo and behold, it was a lot of posturing and stating things that the audience knows, but the characters still don't know, and comes across as a revelation, even though we've already seen it. And some very odd structuring of a mystery reveal.
Yeah, there was. I just should say we're not going to do the classic thing of just ragging on the Acolyte for the whole thing, because there are some good points to it, and people who refuse to see that are, just being obstinate. But no, there is a lot wrong here. Are you talking about the structure? Some of those flashback episodes they stuck in were in the weirdest places.
Yeah,
for a start, like I think one of the huge problems of it is the general order of the episodes. Like every kind of few episodes, there was just a random flashback which kind of killed the pace of everything dead, and just left you going like, oh well, I kind of guessed all that happened. I didn't really need it explicitly stated for an entire episode. 5 to 10 minutes within another episode would have been fine.
Yeah,
really odd.
Or even if it was, if they had just talked about it, or maybe had some flashbacks closer to the present instead of going back to the same one of the temple with the kids.
Trying to run different stories at the same time. It's a bit of a weird.
It was hard to stay invested with it. That being said, I mean, there were still points within it that I quite liked. I did like the Witch's Coven.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good idea that was not explored enough. Seeing the Force as actual magic rather than spirituality, I guess. Spiritual magic.
Yeah, it's a different kind of alternate take on it, isn't it? That's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's something that hadn't really been explored too much, definitely not outside of the Clone Wars, and even the constant tone of the Jedi are bad and indoctrinate their children. But like, why don't we see why don't we see more of the parents and parental figures who lose their kids to the Jedi, and why they would find that disillusioning? That was something in the flashback episode I quite liked, seeing from the mother figure of the Coven, who didn't want them to take her children. Just, as a, from a parent's perspective, I could totally get that. And the kids are obviously not, one wanting to be a Jedi and the other one not wanting to be a Jedi.
Weird twist with that as well. Well, I mean, lazy writing.
Yeah.
I think what also doesn't help is the fact that, despite the fact it was supposed to be set in the equivalent of like ancient Japan, it just looked like every other Star Wars era, time period, whatever.
Yeah, there was
nothing.
Aside from, I think the biggest difference I'd seen was just the color of the robes.
Yeah, and a tea house at the start, just to be like, look, this is going to be like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Star Wars, and for like about 10 minutes.
I was very excited that they would start it with a hand-to-hand martial arts round with Carrie-Anne Moss, and then they killed her.
Yeah, I mean, that brings us on to another point, which is the absolute wasting of a pretty solid cast. All these people have got really hard to pronounce names. So we've got Amandla Stenberg, who is playing the kind of main twins, who's most known for Hunger Games. So this is supposed to be her kind of breakout role. So she was Rue in the Hunger Games. Now she's all grown up.
Playing two people,
which is always a challenge. But to be fair, it was fairly solid. I think the script let them down more than anything. And then we had, I think it's Lee Young-jae, who learned English for the role, coming over from Squid Game. He was obviously excellent in Squid Game, playing a very different part here. Manny Jacinto from The Good Place, who is excellent.
He was amazing.
Absolutely excellent in this. And then that's backed up by some others, including Daphne Keane, who obviously Disney are quite keen just to shove everywhere. But yeah, talk about wasted cast. I mean, a lot of that's down to poor writing.
It really is, because even I never faulted any of the acting in it, and then none of that ever really took me out of it. Not like some moments in Attack of the Clones.
We don't talk about Attack of the Clones.
But even some of the, I mean, talk about like good solid casting. Manny Jacinto was just incredible. Like, I loved him from minute one that he was on screen.
The two, so Manny and Lee Young-jae, I think, were excellent.
Yeah,
really held something which was trying to fall apart at the seams together.
Yeah,
actually kept me coming back and watching it week on week,
and at least like delivering some pretty basic dialogue lines. Some repetitive script lines.
I think that's being kind, to be honest.
Yeah, but they still like showed their own characters' convictions within it. That still made it interesting.
Well, that's because they actually did things. So like the biggest problem with the dialogue is literally people stand around and talk for what feels like hours about nothing, instead of just having what Manny Jacinto does and Lee Jun-jae, which is actually do stuff, get up, get a lightsaber out, or do something, or perform an action rather than stand around and being boring. I think that, I think what we've done is someone's obviously gone, oh, look, there's some dialogue sections in Andor that work really well. Let's do it again. It's like, yeah, but the level of dialogue is so badly written. I'm just amazed that it got past the drafting process with this, and they actually got it like to screen. It's dreadful. Daphne Keane suffers from some horrendous dialogue, and if you've seen her in literally anything else she's been in, you know she's better than this. I mean, oh my God, it's just dreadful.
Yeah,
it's some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard.
Yeah, and this feels like, I don't know if she's been in much since Logan, but this is the first major thing I've seen her back in, and I was really excited. And she's under a lot of like alien makeup for it, which looked great. And playing this Padawan, this wide-eyed Padawan kind of role, and it was. I kept waiting to care.
Yeah, that is. I
kept waiting to care, and a lot of the other characters. Is it spoiler to call them red shirts?
Oh yeah, no, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so annoying as well.
They really are, and it made me enjoy seeing them get killed.
Yeah, some of those young Jedis are just so irritating. I don't know if they're meant to be, but I don't think they are.
But they weren't around enough or did enough to give us a reason to care.
Yeah, it's too many characters and not enough focus, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
And actually, in the end, they weren't important anyway, which is even more baffling. Like, why have so many then? Just cut it down a bit. Crazy. None of them brought anything to it, apart from Daphne Keane as in support there. Like, none of those other characters brought anything that we could have, quite have easily missed. It would have been almost better just to have, the main two Jedi and nobody else. So at least we could form some kind of bond.
Yeah. The one thing they were useful for, which can get us to one of the good parts, is the combat.
Yes.
And yeah, we spoke about like the first scene, the fight in a tea house, which is again very Crouching Tiger, like actual hand-to-hand martial arts, which was awesome. Then we have a severe lack of any kind of action or combat until the main villain reveals himself, and
it's way in though, isn't it?
It was very far in. Was it episode 5 or so?
4 or 5. That was crazy.
But nearly halfway through the series, having to wait, 4 hours to go and to see this. But oh my god, it was incredibly incredible fighting, like great choreography, and I don't know if it was Manny Jacinto or a stunt guy in under a helmet in it, but the ferocity that he was swinging a lightsaber with, and full on headbutting people.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. That's what I was waiting for. That I hadn't seen in a Star Wars movie or a TV show before.
The choreography is awesome. So yeah, the combat, and like I said, when characters do things, when they're moving, when they're in flow, it's fine. It's weird because literally, also have you noticed like when they're delivering dialogue, they literally stop still and talk to each other.
Yeah.
So there's not even any movement when they're talking. It's just like, let me deliver line A and now you repeat back line B. But when stuff gets moving and there's flow, it really flows beautifully. And when characters are doing stuff, it actually works. So those last 3 episodes, I kind of thought they might have just about turned it around enough to actually like keep it going. But obviously it's since been cancelled, which I do think is a bit of a shame because it's almost like they finally worked out what they were doing.
Yeah.
It could, dialogue can always be fixed, and you've got a fairly solid cast. But I mean, you can't imagine for Disney to turn around and go, actually, that just hasn't worked, because they were big on the Acolyte as well.
Yeah,
but that combat is awesome.
It really was, and I can imagine it's very hard to arrange and to film, but that should be at the center of it. That should be not necessarily every episode. But that's what we should be looking forward to and waiting not too long for. And it shows the actors and obviously their stunt doubles like in the best light. And non-dialogue storytelling through it. Like we actually see emotion and expression through it. And that first big battle in the jungle, all those 5 or 6 extra Jedis. That just when they start annoying you the most, then they all get picked off and or cut down.
Yeah,
that was just their entire purpose, just to come in and get killed.
Well, seemingly so. Just to be like, we're going to intentionally bore the audience into submission and go, oh look, here's some really cool action. And it happens more. It's not just one scene as well. Once we kick off from episode 4 or 5, it definitely moves. I think the biggest problem with the Acolyte is that the mystery, and we say in inverted commas because it's so flipping obvious, isn't very interesting.
No.
So, the thing about a mystery, it's like, one, it's obvious and we get beaten to death with flashbacks about it, and we know what the twist is about 1 million episodes before it actually comes. And 2, no, I don't care. I didn't care. I was more interested about with Manny's character and the Jedi character rather than the who was supposed to be the main character. And I don't know. It's not that. And also the music's rubbish. I have to throw that in there as well. Can you remember a single thing?
I was going to say, I don't. No. Pretty much every other Star Wars thing has a moment like I can remember the music from.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Andor and Ahsoka's, but the music from the score and the theme songs are mad.
Yeah.
For both of those. They're ringing in my ears right now. I can't remember what the Acolytes was. And the score is like, it reminds me of if someone had done like a Star Wars toy unboxing on YouTube and used like, generic creation sci-fi number 5, free to use.
Just pay someone on Fiverr to can you make a Star Warsy kind of thing,
but without any Star Wars in it.
A misstep is definitely the right word for it, because it it had moments where it had its moments, and it looked like it had an identity and had something to show off and something to set it apart. And then they were gone right back to the boring.
It kind of reminds me, and I hate to bring this one up. It reminds me a bit of the Book of Boba Fett in that it kind of had promise, and then except Book of Boba Fett I thought started all right and then went weird, as where this did the opposite, where it started dreadfully and got a bit better towards the end.
Even Book of Boba Fett, I could see. I know how it could be fixed if you were to change the order of the script.
Yeah,
like change the order of the storytelling. You don't necessarily have to change what was in it as much as the order of it.
I'm not sure about the mods,
but
I see what you're saying.
Fair enough, but I wouldn't know how to do that. Namely with the flashbacks. If they were all played like as one continuous first episode. Maybe.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Interesting.
It reminded you. I don't know if you've seen this, but the first season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So there's like 13 episodes or something. I think episode 12 was just randomly where Elle goes to the big city and meets someone else with superpowers.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like that is what keeps happening in the Acolyte. It's like, no, I want that story. That one over there. Can we get back to that one over there?
Yeah.
Because I don't care about this one. Because it would have been revealed just through, like, honestly, we didn't need 2 or 3 whole flashback episodes. A couple of moments here and there would have been fine. Not that stupid.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not aimed at kids because of how ferocious the combat is. So, like, come on now. But yeah, very disappointing for everyone involved, I think, really. And not surprised it was cancelled, but I thought there might have just been enough there to do it. What they do with it after this, I'm not quite sure. Whether they just abandon all the characters or try and move sideways.
Or probably try and continue it in comic books.
Comic
books and
maybe.
Somebody will have a love for it. And hey, if you get if they can write it and draw it better than the series, then by all means, like, go for it. Clearly, there are some storyboard artists that can do some good work. Just give them a job in print.
Yeah. Okay. I think we should probably move on to more optimistic things. Okay, so the second thing we're going to talk about is the Ahsoka series, which, again, has a pretty strong cast. So obviously you've got Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka, but we've also got some awesome backup cast here. David Tennant's in here. Mary Elizabeth Winstead's in here. Ray Stevenson in his last role is a bit of a powerhouse through this. And we've got a couple of breakout roles. So you've got Ivana Sakno, I think is how you pronounce it, who is who is Shin, the kind of crazy chaotic neutral evil Jedi, and Natasha Liu Bordizio, who is Sabine, in kind of a couple of breakout roles there. I
was really happy to knowing I only knew a few of the actors beforehand, and seeing, love Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Love that David Tennant came back for this role as the droid.
He's not stupid. He sees those paychecks.
Yeah, and it's the same character he played for like an episode or 2 in the Clone Wars like 10 years ago.
And I think is he in Rebels as well? I'm not sure. Maybe the
no,
just Clone Wars.
Just Clone Wars. Like 1 or 2 short little episodes, years and years ago, like in the early days. And yeah, I love the fact that he did come back for it, playing the same character, being this robotic, almost. What was he called in Harry Potter? The one shop owner.
Oh, I can't remember.
But Ollivander.
Okay.
That's it. But yeah, if anybody who knows Harry Potter, it's the he knows which suits every wizard. This guy's like that for lightsabers.
Yeah.
Which is great to have him just around.
He has some great lines as well throughout this.
Yeah.
When they're in the whale, and he's just like, how do we know? How did you manage to tell that it was going to take us? And she's just like, I didn't. He was just like, Oh, okay. It's like, okay. So I should say, right, so in contrast to the Acolyte, which kind of gets all right towards the end, Ahsoka kind of does the opposite. So I would say the first 5 episodes of Ahsoka are really good. Episodes 4 and 5 are excellent. Episode 5 in particular, Shadow Warrior, we'll talk about more in a minute. And then, unfortunately, it goes quite dramatically downhill in the last 3 episodes. And which kind of leaves a bad taste, unfortunately.
Talking about establishing a mystery at the start. The mystery, I guess, of this is not as central to the plot, but at least the plot doesn't pivot on it. But at least it was far more interesting because it's set in a different era. It's that time after Return of the Jedi, and it's, there's still Imperials out there. What are they up to? What are they scheming? But each investigation leads the characters into action. Like, it could be a fight, it could be a chase, checking out an ancient temple or something like that. But it leads to them doing something and discovering something new along with us in the audience.
There's a nice mix, isn't there? And the dialogue's pretty good. The characters. I tell you what. I did notice by the end of episode 1, if you'd never watched Rebels, you'd know who all these characters are. And I think that was genius.
Yeah,
they got a big. It's a pretty sizable cast of Rebels over here.
Yeah, and it could have really. It kind of does rely on nostalgia for that show, but yeah, if you hadn't seen it before, then you would definitely know who everyone is and what they're about and what their personality's like, and reasons to actually like them as well. And
it also does a great partition between like the animation style of Rebels into real action. So like the color schemes, how the art, like the armor, even murals and things which are painted around the city. So it does feel like they're not shying away from, hey, this used to be an animation and now we've turned it into a real live action thing. We're going to continue straight on from where it is.
They're just doing it in live action. It's they're not trying to rework it or make it better.
Yeah, and it's very much like, hey, if you were with us for all the Rebel stuff, that's great. We've got, you'll know what we're talking about. If you're not, let's go round and introduce you to Ahsoka and to Sabine and to, I can't remember what Mary Elizabeth Winstead character's called. Hera, and various others, and let's show you what they're about. And they're all very distinct, and they look really distinct.
Yeah, and the costumes look like they do in the animated show.
Costumes are great.
They're great. The
Sabine in particular is like the different kind of looks and her armor and all that, really well done.
The punk artist Mandalorian.
Yeah, really, really well done with Sabine. Considering a relatively unknown actress, quite an iconic character.
Yeah.
Just excellent.
And the same could be said for like the new characters, where the ones that Ray Stevenson and Ivana Sakno play. Yeah. Like these two new, they're not Sith, but they're not Jedi, but they're kind still
grey
evil.
Jedis.
Brilliantly named Shin and Hati, because Dave Filoni, like the creator of Clone Wars and Rebels, finds an excuse to throw in wolves for everything. So naturally, two new guys. Oh, we'll name them after the Sun and Moon Wolf.
They are excellent as well, aren't they?
But they make a big impression straight away. I loved their robes and armor. That combination of the combination of battle armor with over their Jedi robes, almost like they never stopped fighting a war.
Yeah, and again, two very distinct personalities. It's not just like they kind of nameless mold into each other, etc., etc. Yeah. You have the real dynamic of the older, more experienced one and the younger, slightly crazy one. Not unlike a kind of shadowy reflection of Obi-Wan and
Or do you think more like Anakin and Ahsoka?
I'd go more Anakin and Obi-Wan rather than Anakin and Ahsoka. I know just from Ray Stevenson's point of view.
Yeah.
But I know where you're coming from with that. I always see as Ahsoka as kind of the true neutral almost within this kind of stuff. I think they're more.
I mean, by this point in her story, like, she definitely is. Which again is nice. It's different. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I've been a big fan of Clone Wars since the beginning, following like Ahsoka's character since that first movie introduced her.
I have waded through all of the Clone Wars now,
and it's you definitely see like how she's become the grown up now.
I'll tell you what, they've done really well developing that character through all the stuff that she's been in.
Yeah,
really well done. Long term character development, like decades of character development.
Yeah, and but yeah, it started off really well. She's her on her own mission, trying to find out what the Empire's up to, and then we get the big, we get the fight, a big confrontation in the middle, which led to some of the best episodes. And
yeah, because they start adding in some of the what's that unnamed dude with the lightsaber that he chucks? I can't remember what they call them.
The Inquisitor guy.
He's just like
he's a fart cloud.
Yeah, he's just like a suit of dark energy, which is never really explained, but it's kind of cool.
I mean, I liked it, and I was like, "Oh, is that like this thing in the Clone Wars that the Force Witches use?" But I can't see it well enough, and they haven't mentioned it again.
I did love the thing about, it's going to be the big reveal, he's under the mask, and then it's just nothing.
Yeah, no.
Literally nothing there, because we're too invested in Shin and Ray Stevenson.
I quite like that, like being able to play with the audience.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's Ezra. No,
dude, fans are going to fixate on this mystery that we're not focusing on. We'll make it nothing.
It's a great piece of misdirection.
Yeah.
Where they've just gone, worry about this for a bit, and we're gonna hide this mystery over here.
But yeah, and then we get to see a great duel between Ahsoka and Skull.
Yeah.
And who is moves like a medieval knight.
Yeah.
Like this immovable object that's clearly this reflects that like seasoned veteran, like older veteran.
That's episode 4, isn't it, where they have that like fight on the cliff top. That's Ray Stevenson's like best performance, I think, in this series.
Kept enjoying seeing that he's an antagonist but not a villain.
He kind of reminded me of like the Last Duel, like the dude in the Last Duel who wins.
Yeah.
Like just kind of like, just pound it, just keep hitting. Eventually it'll work. It's like full like brute strength with about 5% skill. Just enough skill to get you out of the way of everything else. Like proper knight in armor.
Yeah. And it was great to see that. Great to see Ahsoka having to adapt to that fighting style as well.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't, does she?
Well, she does. Tries to.
Yeah, she gets.
Tries to. She's still, and just as so that fight ends with her getting thrown off a cliff.
Yeah. Into the mystic waters below.
But still, like, they don't, I guess, unlike what something like the Acolyte would do, they don't play it as is she dead? Is this the end? Like, everyone knows. No, she's not. She's just going to have going to have a journey.
You have about 30 seconds of going, I wonder if Sabine's going to take over this now. And then you're like, no, that's not going to happen. What we're gonna get after Ray Stevenson's like near career high performance is one of like the best individual episodes of a Star Wars series ever, which is Shadow Warrior episode 5, which is absolutely stunning. And in terms of when we talk about the movies or Andor or the stuff which is excellent, I think that episode, at least 90% of that episode is as good as anything that has ever been made in the Star Wars universe.
And it's a great like look back on the prequel era. Yeah. Particularly like and really appealing to fans of the Clone Wars like me. But if you haven't seen it, then you get to see, if you've only seen the prequel movies, or even if you haven't, I guess, like there's mentions of the Clone Wars. And you actually get to see it be this horrific, constant battleground.
It's like Saving Private Ryan, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. I mean, first of all, we should say they land. I can't remember what it's called, but that bridge thing, doesn't she? So she kind of goes into ethereal force realm.
Yeah. Meets the ghost of Anakin.
Yeah, meets the ghost of Anakin with some slightly iffy de-aging special effects on Hayden Christensen.
Slightly, but
ever so slightly dodgy.
To be honest, I'm just happy to see him back.
Yeah. But he's supposed
see
to
him
be
have another go.
Slightly force ghosty as well, so you can kind of let it go. So you've got this incredible visual of this. I mean, is it purple, the bridge? I'm trying to think.
It's like blue. It's like blue starlight.
Blue starlight bridge thing that they're stood on, and the music is like soaring and swirling and being like Star Wars epicness. Some of the best music that has ever been produced for Star Wars as well. Like it's all in on this episode, and that kind of transitions through to Ahsoka changing to young Ahsoka. So the Ahsoka that people who've seen Clone Wars will kind of recognize, much smaller.
It's like season 1 and 2 of Clone Wars when she's a really young kid, and first joining in the war and her training with Anakin, and then we flash. It flashes between that and later stages of the war when she's more grown up.
And surge of the siege of Mandalore.
Yeah. So it starts with again for fans of the Clone Wars. Yeah. It starts with the siege, the siege in Ryloth. Then it goes to some other battle that could be the second Geonosis. I don't know, but then finishes with the siege of Mandalore at the end of the Clone Wars when Ahsoka's by that point she is like taking charge on her own and leading the clone squad by herself without Anakin.
But it's the incredible visual because it deals with all the bodies, the fallouts of the war, and you've got this kind of ethereal fog of war over all the scenes, so she can't see too far ahead. And sometimes when Anakin's running through the fog, he turns into Darth Vader, and sometimes he doesn't. And it's just incredible,
and a great chance to see, how that how a war like that impacts someone like Ahsoka, but also how it shaped Anakin into Vader. Yeah,
it feels horrific as well. Like it feels like war. It doesn't feel like Star Wars war. It feels like those movies you've seen that put you in the war zone. It's the music's incredible throughout that sequence.
The music's great. The visuals are great, even when they're surrounded by this ethereal fog of war.
Yeah.
Just we can see the clones running through. We can see the laser blasts going off. We can hear them all yelling out to each other and crying out and dying. The armor looks amazing on the clones.
Doesn't it just?
And Anakin's battle armor, like that we never seen in live action. And also, I think that helps, like seeing real clone troopers in real physical armor.
And they've got their correct voices, and they don't scrimp on the effects either, because you've got the walkers, and you've got it's just little glimpses here and there of this stuff. It's just brilliant. And it kind of all culminates in, there's various lessons that she's being taught and saying, no, actually, Anakin, I disagree with this, or fighting back against him on things. Then it comes back to a duel on the ethereal, Starlight Bridge.
Yeah.
Where Anakin is basically like, you only have two choices, and that's whether you live or you die, kind of thing. And she's like, well, I want to live, but I'm going to do it a different way.
Yeah. Kind
of thing. Because she disarms him quite easily, actually.
Yeah.
When you actually watch it. She literally, I didn't realise it when I first watched it, but she takes he smashes her lightsaber, and then with her free hand, he goes to strike her, and she just takes his lightsaber off him and chucks it. So it's like, I'm going to live, but I'm not going to become Vader.
Yeah.
Which I think is
maybe like trying to show shades of Luke in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Disarming him and then stopping the fight and saying, no, I won't kill you.
Yeah, throwing the lightsaber away. I mean, I think it's playing on that quite aptly. Again, dialogue through this is awesome. I don't know if it was the same scriptwriter throughout Ahsoka, but they were on point for this. Hayden Christensen, best acting as Vader here.
Yeah.
Like, actually showing he can act to the point where I'm like, I if we're going to have some flashbacks of Ahsoka and Vader, I'd be like, okay with that. I can't imagine they're not going to do something like that again, the way it's going. Especially with the teasers at the end of Ahsoka of maybe being on that Force planet or whatever it was, where there's like the good one and the bad one from the Clone Wars.
Yeah. Do we want to get into the episodes afterwards, the sort of letdown?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about all this awesome. You could argue when you've just watched arguably one of the greatest pieces of individual Star Wars that has ever been made. And that's I honestly think that about this particular episode. Because also the end of that episode, not only that, it's the space whales, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like then you get all the stuff about the whales and the intergalactic travel, and it ends on like a shoot into the the even further away galaxy, and you're like, oh my god! And then that amazing remixed Ahsoka score starts swirling and playing, and you're just like, I'm done. I'm Star Warsed.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably it's a beautiful sequence where you just see Ahsoka standing on top of a ship, calling out and taming a space whale. Like flying space whales to eat them and hold them as the space whales shoot off
into space. It's
flying past a bunch of like rebel ships or New Republic ships who are all just going, what the hell?
Now, if only the series had ended there.
Yeah. So they go to New Mystery Planet on the very, very far, far away.
Yeah, there's all sorts of weird implications about this other universe as well, linking up with other stuff, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which I didn't really like, but there you go.
It has a cool opening bit where they actually arrive, and it's full of like, it looks like planetary rings, and it turns out no, they're bones.
Yeah, so it starts all right, but
and trying to like navigate through a minefield in that was quite cool.
But then it's just a bit disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I love Star Wars, and I love like consuming all the like extra stuff in it. So I was very hyped for the arrival of the villain Thrawn.
Oh, yeah.
And Lars Mikkelsen, really liked his voice work on him in Rebels. Perfect kind of calm, but I wouldn't even call him sneering.
No,
but superior.
But the character is much better in Rebels, isn't he?
Yeah,
it's so much better in Rebels.
But yeah, and for a character who is supposed to be like the smartest guy the Empire's ever used and ever had, and his grand return, he doesn't do much.
Doesn't do it. It's 3 episodes of nothing.
He doesn't create any misdirects or misleads. He doesn't create any traps. I think the biggest threat is the fact that he's like, right, I'll send TIE fighters out.
Yeah, and then that's kind of underdone by the fact that they're fighting bloody snail creature people, which is a really odd kind of choice, if you can call it that. And then like the reveal of Ezra is pretty rubbish as well. So it's all a bit weak.
Yeah, not bad, but it's not good either.
No,
it's nothing special.
It's only then, and then the two grey Jedis just kind of disappear off and start wandering about on their own, and you're just like, real lack of focus.
Yeah, and they were clearly trying to go for the lean into the supernatural angle. Like they get there's the Night Sisters or the Night Mothers, who are like Force witches.
Yeah,
on this planet with Thrawn that he's teamed up with. Great, that could be interesting. Thrawn's army is literally held together by, the stormtroopers have this kintsugi style to repair their armor with gold, which I thought, great, they've been stapling their armor back together to survive, but using gold with it, and looking almost like Roman Empire. Cool, I'm into that.
The look was good, but the vibe wasn't.
And it does culminate in a cool battle involving zombies.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's only 8 episodes, isn't it? The problem is episode 5 is amazing, and episode 6 is awful, and then 7 and 8 are kind of all right. So, but it's just such a poor 6th episode that but it doesn't derail the whole thing. It's enough to keep you watching. You just end up with a kind of like, that's a shame, because like 4 and 5 are such strong episodes.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of intrigue there, like seeing what Shin takes over a band of pirates, and
they clearly have been mapping out like a second season for this.
Oh yeah, it's been commissioned, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame to see Ray Stevenson and Shin and Hattie, Skull and Hattie, sorry.
Yeah.
Skull and Hattie like go off on their own adventure, and Skull is clearly looking for his own thing, involving Force gods.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about this as well, because obviously Ray Stevenson is very sadly no longer with us.
Yeah.
So I guess they're going to have to recast, unless he's already filmed it. I don't know.
I don't think they would. It would be really tricky to work out, because he was so good in the role, and they could write off the character, which would be disappointing.
Yeah, I don't really want them to do that.
Or they could recast him, which could work if they're like. Yeah.
I mean, they've done it in other things and people haven't really noticed.
Yeah.
They did it in Game of Thrones quite a lot, didn't they? So
yeah, we went through like 5 different mountains.
Yeah, and the Danny's lover bloke like kept changing constantly.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see the character stay.
I'd want to see that. I'd want to see that story play out. I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see an old man and his apprentice like just going off in search of the gods.
Well, they've split as well, haven't they? So it's very odd.
But it seemed to be like okay, you go do a thing on your own. Like not the bugger off, but it kind of I'm on my own. You need to go. You need to move out. You need to move out and get a job and make some friends and live your own life for a bit. And I'll check in with you later. And the series ends before we see any checking in.
I wonder
and leaves, and the series ends on a cliffhanger with Thrawn and his team going back to the main galaxy, leaving the others, and nobody seems to be that bothered about it.
Yeah, it's all a bit odd. Do we think Thrawn is going to be the bad in the kind of Mandalorian verse Avengers movie?
Yeah.
Is that where this is going? So I wonder if we get that before second season of Ahsoka, or if we get it after. I
don't know. It could still work.
Totally. I'm up for more.
They're doing an Avengers style project.
I mean, I just listened to the music, to be honest. I listened to that Ahsoka theme tune again. And I was like, yeah, I could listen to more of this, because no matter how bad the episode is, as soon as that music comes back on, you're like, this sounds amazing. It's all like adventure-y, space pirate-y, swooshy, Star Wars-y. It's absolutely brilliant.
Yep, they get that. Throwing some witches and some zombies.
Yeah,
and
we're all good.
Yeah.
Right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so the final thing we're going to talk about is arguably
the creme de la creme.
The creme de la creme of Star Wars. I'm not even going to say TV shows.
Who knew this would be as good as it was?
Who knew?
I certainly didn't.
So Andor, that I believe I uttered the phrase, well, no one's going to be interested in that when it was announced. Starring Diego Luna of the lovely accents, facial hair, and hair generally, with very strong support from Stellan Skarsgård as the beautifully named Luthen.
Yeah.
And Genevieve O'Reilly reprising her role as Mon Mothma, which she has played multiple times, and an occasional super assist by Andy Serkis.
Who just comes in 3 episodes and steals, kind of steals the show.
Yeah. I mean, best Andy Serkis acting? I'm trying to think.
Amongst it's hard to put it up. I definitely put it up with like the best Caesar moments in
best Andy Serkis acting when he's not covered in CGI.
It's still him acting, and he's got the same. But the thing is, he's got the same energy that Caesar does. He's looking after his tribe, and
so good, so good.
But yeah, he has just come along, and he didn't come along and fix it, but he was absolutely incredible in it. But even some of the others, so what's great about Andor is that it's broken up into like 4 movies.
Yeah, I was looking at this. I reckon it's 3, but you can argue because of where episode 10 is placed, which is the breakout.
But then,
so you kind of get like 8 and 9, and then 10, 11, 12. So I almost think like 7 to 12 is 1.
See, I always thought so the opening arc about
The arc, which I have
Stealing.
dubbed the Start a Fire arc.
Yeah, start a fire. That's good. That's good. Yeah, essentially starting a fire under the Empire. Then we get the Eye, and
which I've dubbed the Draw of Blood arc.
Yeah, involving a longly planned heist. The actors in that are brilliant as well.
Yeah.
Evan Moss Backcrackers, really good in that.
Is that the guy from The Bear?
The Bear.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's great.
He's great in it. And the young kid, I don't remember the actor's name, but the young kid who's writing the manifesto.
Oh, I believe that mantra.
The idealist, but he was so like such a purist and believed it so much. And combination of brilliant writing, brilliant dialogue writing, and a good actor for it that makes you want to believe it as well.
Let me just give some background here. So if you haven't watched Andor yet, which a lot of people haven't, weirdly, so it basically starts with Cassian Andor, who's just kind of doing low-level roguish type stuff. And it's basically the story of how the little people, both in the Empire and the Rebellion, kind of cause through small things. Andor basically kills really low level. It's not even a proper. It's like a security guard or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like real low level 2 guards, and this kind of escalates and turns into like the Empire really cracking down on things, and that in itself then escalates and causes the revolution to kind of begin. It's really good storytelling about how the little things are what really drive people to revolt. Like how it's not the Star Destroyer sat in the atmosphere, it's the fact that it's the low-level grunt with the baton who's abusing their power that causes someone to fight back, which then spurs something else on. So it's all about the little people, basically, Andor, and it's remarkable.
And exploring it on, like you said, it explores it on both sides, both for, people like Andor doesn't want to join the rebellion at first.
Yeah.
But you see members of the rebellion already and low-level members of the Empire.
It's very street level, isn't it? There's no Jedis, there's no Darth Vader, there's very few. Are there even stormtroopers?
Oh, there's
a couple of stormtroopers.
There's stormtroopers.
Yeah. But it's all very, very street level.
Yeah. And humanistic responses to like increasingly stressful times.
It's a pressure cooker, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a very, very gently turning up of a pressure cooker over the 12 episodes until even the people who feel they don't want to get involved or they feel they've got too much to lose have had enough.
Yeah.
And that is and all done through the ignorance and mismanagement of the people in power.
Yeah.
It is a manifesto for revolution, effectively.
Yeah.
And we have to say this again, the music, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Andor theme and the general scoring.
Slowly building.
Absolutely
slowly
incredible.
Building throughout its moments.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it, go and listen to the Andor theme tune, right? If that doesn't get you wanting to watch the show, that's the same tone as the show. It's amazing. It's very different to the Ahsoka one as well, which is great because it shows that you could like telling musical stories.
Yeah.
This is much more a feeling of struggle, isn't it? It's much more like,
yeah, and keeping the locations small and restricted as well.
Very claustrophobic.
Yeah, we get to spend a lot of time. We can spend the first 3 episodes just really on one planet.
Yeah. Street level,
and this is a planet full of like red clay in the dirt and red bricks everywhere, and
like Steinbeck-esque working class.
Yeah,
yeah.
And then the heist sequence, episodes 4 to 6, is all set in the woods, and in the hills. Camping outdoors all the time, sleeping under trees and eating roots.
The Robin Hood arc.
Yeah, and then we get the prison.
Yeah,
the imprisonment and prison break story.
The irony of if they just left him alone, everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
The Death Star would never have been destroyed if you just left him alone on the beach.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So basically, the first 3 episodes follow this arc of Luthen trying to recruit Andor. But it's never really explained why he specifically wants Andor. Does he just think he's rife for causing mischief?
I think it is that, because we get to see like very restrained use of flashbacks, the right amount to show Andor's childhood. How he gets taken in by this couple who are clearly a pair of punks, like that are just getting older, but they're just here to steal from the Republic at the time, and fight the Republic because they don't like over authority and over policing. We see how that roguish attitude has raised Andor. And even though he's just doing low level petty theft, almost, then but he can cause mischief.
Oh, he ends up with the hyperdrive, doesn't he?
Yeah, he steals something like really valuable that the Empire barely notice and barely care about.
Which is another interesting theme that goes through. Like he keeps repeating. I was watching The Eye again last night, and he keeps repeating like, "No, they don't learn."
Yeah,
you're right about it. You're right about one thing about they want to do this, but they don't learn. They don't care.
Yeah.
So they're rife. They make mistakes all the time. They're not interested in the little people because they think they're that powerful.
Yeah, and even throughout it, we get to see one of the low level, the corpo police officers, like he's kind of a junior.
Oh yeah,
who wants to take the investigation and get justice.
But he's just rubbish.
He is just rubbish, and he is clearly terrified.
Yeah. And everything he does just incites more problems.
Yeah.
But that's that street level Empire generally, isn't it? You get the thing, if Vader had got a whiff of any of this, they'd have all have been dead.
Yeah.
But they just keep causing more problems, which causes more people to revolt, which raises the pressure cooker.
And you see so much infighting as well, and bullying within the Empire, like the Empire's political structure. It's not just them oppressing the people of planet; they oppress each other.
Yeah,
and it's a system built out of fear.
So you get this kind of. It's really an introduction more to Andor, isn't it? The first 3, and then it kind of ends in an awesome episode, which is Reckoning, episode 3. Which first, I must admit, I watched the first 2 episodes because they looked really nice, but I was getting a bit bored. And originally, when I watched them the first time, I was like, these first 2 episodes aren't great. I've rewatched them again. I was wrong. But episode 3, where I was almost zoning out, I was almost thinking, maybe this isn't going to work out. It looks lovely, but no, I was like, suddenly found myself hooked. As soon as kind of Stellan Skarsgård really appears, and you get this whole thing of him like just coming in on a normal transport, coming in on a bus, just talking to people.
Yeah,
there's nothing about him at all which would suggest he's anything other than who he is, and then you suddenly start to see the power that this man has in terms of the rebellion and getting people to work for him and unpicking the Empire's plans and knowing just where to hit them and in just what way,
and knowing where to poke people, like the people that he's recruiting and has recruited. He knows how to push their buttons as well. Like he knows how to get Andor to care,
and he's ruthless. This is the thing, he's supposed to be a good guy, but he is absolute. There's multiple moments in it where they're like, well, we can't. I think there's a group about to start an assault on an Imperial facility, and he's like, well, we've got information that they're going to be overwhelmed, but we can't tell them. Yeah. It's just, and they're like, we can't do that. And he's just like, well, it's a revolution. Yeah.
But as we see, like, as you said, the pressure cooker, the pressure get turned up. Yeah. Like, there's a bit where Mon Mothma turns to him and says, like, people are going to suffer. Yeah. Like, people are going to get hurt doing this, and he just goes, that's the plan. Yeah,
because they have to. And Mon Mothma, there's a lot of so moving over to like the supporting characters, Mon Mothma is kind of there as the political fundraising kind of sounding out of the rebellion, And there's a lot of dialogue scenes with her, and none of them are boring. This kind of political thriller element kind of enters in, where it's like, who can you trust? How can we move forward? How does she keep her cover? Because she's kind of always under the eye of the Empire.
Yeah, but we get to see that stress where, sort of wear on her, but between her and Luthen as well, like when they put on their facades, their Clark Kent glasses and Bruce Wayne, Bruce Wayne face. Put on the actual facades for it. Like, oh, I'm just a senator. Like, I just need something for one of my charity outreaches. When they're actually like raising money and selling arms and stuff like that.
It's beautiful character development. They're really well written. And the dialogue is always on point. I can't think of a single missed line, to be honest. It is. No. And even the like characters who have very few lines, they're always good.
Yeah. Pretty much everyone does. I really like the dialogue in all the ISB office, the Imperial Security Bureau. I mean, everything is just pristine white, and like brutalist architecture in it. Yeah. And they're all like pecking at each other to get the boss's approval. And he's just able to shut them down. Not in a, but without bullying them. They bully each other, and we follow this. I forget what her name is now, Deirdre something, but the only woman in the room have to fight to investigate the theft of this star map that nobody cares about, and having to fight all of her colleagues around it just to get a voice in the room.
She keeps saying to them, like, look, I think there's more going on here, because they're there, and that's when they gradually start to untangle the fact that they're stealing very specific things, but from all over the galaxy, and no one's picked up on this thing. They only ever look locally. But then we kind of, once we get past the first little movie, you get to the bit of like, right, we're going to actually cause some damage to the Empire here, and Andor ends up on this thing. I think it's all Luthen's plan for him to meet the guy who's writing the mantra, isn't it? I think that's like kind of...
There's that, and but also like they need to raid an Imperial armory and steal the payroll. Yeah. And you see like Luthen and Mon Mothma talking about like she's struggling to get her money out without notice. Yeah. And he's just like, well, we need money. Yeah. So he's arranged this heist,
it's literally 2 episodes of quite quiet planning. They don't do a lot. They're kind of in the woods. They wander about. They chat.
But you see, like, how meticulous they are. Like, they chat, but none of the dialogue is wasted. No, it's them. Even when they're repeating themselves, there's like they're learning their scripts for when they infiltrate. Yeah. They're learning their routine of how they're going to walk, how they're going to step, which side you're going to stand on.
And also, you're getting to learn more characters. So there's so many characters, you care about all of them to some degree, or you're interested in all of them. So when characters die or disappear, you're like, oh no, that was a really interesting character, And you start to get, once you get up to episode 6, you start to get the real terror of the TIE fighters coming in, like the one which swoops through the valley. Yeah, and it's just a TIE fighter, but when you're just farmers on the
when great use of the sound where you just hear that screeching of the engine. Like over the hills.
And then, of course, they go out to this dam. I've been to the dam. It's in Scotland. It's Kraken Hydroelectric Dam. It didn't take me 10 days to walk up to, but I did have to walk up a flipping mountain with my son to get to it. And it looks literally the same. I was watching it and I was like, they've literally just added one bit of CGI there. It looks like Vader's helmet. The dam genuinely looks like that.
Oh, my God.
And I'm just looking at all the shots around it. But so you got this really cool dam, and then like, the heist goes on and the tension, there's multiple time clocks going off because they've got to get it out, and the signals are jammed, and there's this event called the Eye where it's kind of like...
It's like a meteor
shower stroke Northern Lights type deal. So like there's stuff, and it's crippling everything, like electrical storm. And for whatever reason, they've got to then fly this really slow...
Well, they're using it for cover to take the transport out.
So it's really slow transport.
The transport that's big and bulky, it's the only one in the hangar, and it's the only one that can load out crates of gold. Yeah. and having to fly that through a storm, like a meteor storm, that's also like got all this energy coming out.
Yeah.
While being chased by TIE fighters.
Well, it's that that's the big time clock, isn't it? Because you suddenly get this thing where someone gets the message through, and you start getting this back and forth with these shots of literally them getting in the TIE fighters, the TIE fighters being lowered down, then TIE Fighter 1 flies out, and then the next one down, and TIE Fighter 2 flies out. And it's honestly, they are the 3 most terrifying TIE fighters you have ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Normally you would not care, but these things have been set up like absolute monsters. I mean, it's brilliantly done. And then you get the whole thing of the chase through this like amazing electrical storm, and it's just incredible. And absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and it goes back to like it's about the little people and it's street level. And when we've normally seen like in Star Wars movies, TIE fighters get shot down all the time by the Millennium Falcon and by other like rebels. Like, so we're used to seeing them getting blown up all the time. If you don't have that, if you don't have your own heavily armed, heavily modified spaceship that you're an expert pilot at, and you're facing 3 of them, like, you are screwed.
Yeah.
And then really make you feel it. But it's a beautiful sequence as well, just visually, like, astonishing.
Watch it in as high a definition as you possibly can. It is incredible. If they showed like any of these arcs in the cinema, that would be the one I would go and see.
And even just being able to go from like the sound in it as they're in the ship and in the storm, and then it cuts back to the crowd they've come for a festival to watch it, and they're all looking up, and nobody's seeing the spaceships in there because they're seeing all the meteors, and it's just calm and peaceful and beautiful, and even the Imperials there are like in awe. Beautiful.
Incredible sequence. And then obviously we move into the final bit, which is Andor ends up in prison, and it gets very
for nothing,
which again, if
for literally nothing,
just left him alone. He gets picked up by the wrong robot, doesn't he? Basically. And there's kind of a running thematic throughout the entire of Andor where the people are on the ground and the Empire buildings tower over them, and there's this repeated message of climb throughout it. So during the Eye, it's shouted 3 times, and then it's repeated again during this final arc. It's just shouted 3 times again, and then Rick's Road, which is the final one, it's 3 times again. So this thing of like climb, drag yourself up, raise yourself up, pull the man up next to you, is this incredible kind of. There's also this part of the mantra is you never see attack coming from below.
Yeah.
So it's always this kind of, everyone always looks up for the attack. They never look down. So there's so many clever things. I mean, you could sit here for hours and unpick all the individual thematics and stuff that are running through it. We're not going to do that. So, calm down, everybody.
But just watch the series, and if you've watched it before, watch it again, and you'll notice these things.
I mean, I've watched it 3 times, and every time I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, almost to the point where I'm like, I need to write an essay about this, and I'm like, who's going to read it? But there's so much detail in here that I don't think people have even really begun to pick apart. Like, so much linking and foreshadowing and like thematic kind of change and stuff. It's just amazing.
I'm currently rewatching it, and it's for the first time since it came out, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm on the prison arc at the moment, about halfway through it, and even the opening scene where you notice like the Imperial arrogance, how understaffed they are.
Yeah.
And how much they just ignore the prisoners once they're like in their workshops and building, on their assembly lines, just constantly making these giant gears and racing to do it so that they can get flavor in their food.
Yeah.
Competing with each other for the most basic of rights. But yeah, just in that opening when they're walking him in, you just see all the little hints of Andor's looking around. Right, there's the guns, there's the armor. They're waiting for a guard. Where is he? He's taking a while.
Yeah, not many guards.
But it just keeps cutting back to him looking down the hallway, and then he looks over to the guards, and I didn't clock it the first time, but it's Andor making notes of these.
Yeah. He's the only one who notices all the details. It's just really cleverly done. And he'll sit there and he'll be like, oh, we can't do this. And he's like, no, there's no one there. Yeah. And then it's like most of it is him trying to convince other people that no, you can get in this. There's nothing there. They're just telling you. Yeah. There's actually nothing there. And again, and then they do that thing where they push it too far because they won't let people out after their sentence. They just extend this, and then everyone's then on board. So if they had just at any point during the arcs, if the Emperor just stepped back that one step, everything would have been fine.
But they're reacting to the heist, over policing, which got Andor and thrown in prison in the first place for doing nothing, and the Empire are over policing. They re-sentence everyone and just add more time to them. Then they find out that the sentence, you don't actually ever get out. If they had just not gone too far, not gone a step further to try and show dominance.
But again, it's all middle management, isn't it? It's never like Vader. It's never like it's just someone going, oh well, we'll just do these peasants, these whatevers. Like they won't dare do anything. And it's like, but you just push everybody too far, and you forget there's actually not many of you.
It's not Vader, and it's not Tarkin, and it's not like one of the big bosses.
You're just an idiot.
The big bosses who will let the rebels go to find out where their base is.
And then, of course, it ends up with the prison escape, which is incredible. Andy Serkis, awesome.
Giving an incredible speech.
The monologue is amazing.
Even during it, you see him find his courage as he is speaking. You just see the revolution clock in his head as he's delivering this inspiring speech to
Melchi's in there as well, isn't he?
So one of the characters from Rogue One, we get to see his the first time he meets Andor.
So again, revolution is building.
He's the other one that notices like the guards, how understaffed and under-equipped, and how little they're paying attention. He's the only other one that's clocking it. Whereas the others are all focused on just the assembly line job.
And then of course culminates in Rick's Road, which is we're kind of full circle. So we're back to the people being oppressed who finally realised they've had enough.
As the Empire have filled the streets, they're just taking people and imprisoning them and torturing them.
And we know that the Empire has overstepped because it's the only place in the entire galaxy in Andor there where we see that there is a structure which towers above the Empire, which is the Bell Tower. It's the only structure in the entire.
That guy on the Bell Tower hitting the hammers on whatever that kind of anvil is. He is having the time of his life, and I love it. He loves his job.
But then you literally get the ring the bell of revolution. So it's awesome. I'm gonna have to go back and watch some of the other episodes. I might just start watching it. It's 12 hours, isn't it?
Watch it steadily.
Don't.
It's not a binge-worthy show, but don't.
You kind of want it to be though, don't you?
Don't sleep on it.
No.
It's watch it. Watch an episode every one a day at most.
It's one of those things that,
or 3 a week.
As if you're looking to make or learn stuff about film production or TV productions, it's one that there's so much in there. Sound, acting, dialogue, design, color, build, script, structure. It's all in there. It's pretty much perfect. So I can't think of many.
And I love seeing every time we see Coruscant, it's just that's East London. It's East London, isn't it? That's there. That's by Canary Wharf. And just. Not that I'm complaining, but it's like, London really works well for the imperial capital.
Ironic.
So full of concrete rectangles.
Yes.
And glass. But just a visual design between that and then wherever the normal people are based, you get to see the use of color and lack of color. Of nature and lack of nature. And community versus division and competition.
And on top of that, it makes Rogue One a better film. It does, because the tone fits perfectly. And even without the final, obviously Andor Season 2 is filmed and...
due out early next year, I think.
I'm going to say March, but I think no, because hang on, isn't Daredevil in March? They're not going to release them both at the same time, are they? The earlier the better. Bring it out now. I can't. I need to see it.
But they said the plan is to bring it to basically 5 minutes before Rogue One.
Yeah, I think it literally to the point of where Andor rushes into the scene in Rogue One. It's going to end literally, I think, when he's landed from whatever he's been doing. Yeah. So I'm just a little bit worried that they can keep that level of quality up. Because I'd hate, can you imagine if like Andor season 1 amazing, Andor season 2 average, and then Rogue One's like pretty good. So you just need like, I don't know, that's my only concern. But if you get the same team involved.
Yeah. Well, we don't worry about things we don't care about.
No. Yeah, well, that's it.
But what an incredible show. That was an incredible story. And you didn't use, like you said,
I didn't care.
You didn't care. I didn't find a reason to care because I loved Rogue One and thought that was good on its own. There's nothing else that needs to be said. Never been happy to have been wrong.
Also it's so mind blowing. It's not just we had low expectations going in.
Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't even going to watch it.
It's still better than definitely a lot of TV that's out there.
Oh,
and
it's
and it's
it's in my top five TV shows ever.
Yeah,
easily. I know I'm more of a movie person. I don't go all in on TV that often, but Andor is just amazing.
Yeah,
like it's even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you should love it. I like if you've never seen anything Star Wars related before, all the stuff is there for you to understand. You could go straight from this into Rogue One, into New Hope,
but it's also so tonally different.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't need the Star Wars brand, does it? It could have literally been a show set anywhere, any time period. Didn't need to be sci-fi. There's very little sci-fi actually in it.
Yeah,
it really
it's just spaceships instead of cars.
Yeah, if you replace the lasers with bullets, and it could very well be just an incredibly well told story. With incredible acting and the dialogue, I'm gonna have to go and check who the scriptwriter was because there's not a missed sentence across 12 episodes. It's not often I say that. I can't think of anything where I've gone that's out of place. It's just people like putting in incredible performances, and you go, oh wow, that was amazing, and then you get to the next episode and you go, oh my god, that one's better. Yeah, it's just mad. So. Right. Well, we've rambled on. I feel we should probably call it.
Yeah. Well, I think we should, and then go put on Andor.
Let's go and watch Andor.
Watch some more.
Let's go and get the Blu-ray. Okay. So thank you everyone for listening on our little Star Wars diversion. Hopefully Ali will be back for the next one. And we'll see you next time.
Ta-ta.